This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. It was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-eating, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one sing him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way. Stanley clicked on literally every single door in the office because he doesn't pick up well on cues from his environment. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here. It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. "I'm dreaming!" he yelled. "This is all a dream." Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying. and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently and invited himself to wake. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine.
What's up, back to the G-Mod?
I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
What the hell?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a
What's the drink you drinking?
Staring down at the body. And then
It's called Polar. It's just water. Fizzy water. There ain't nothing else in it. It's just fizzy water.
Water in a can.
Yeah, I love it. I'm addicted to them. I was trying to kick soda pop, and I found those, and I can't stop drinking them now. But luckily, I don't drink soda anymore. And I've lost like 60 pounds.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace.
Your face cam is interesting.
How come? Because it's a hexagon shape?
It's the shape of a honeycomb, or the other shape I've forgotten.
Yeah, it's a hexagon. I think. I guess it is the shape of a honeycomb. I don't know.
Stanley came to a set of
Never
two
actually
open
thought of
doors.
that.
He entered the door on his left.
So, okay, I went left last
This was
time.
not
Let's
the
go
correct
right
way to
this
the
time.
meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Yeah, that's it. I want to admire the employee lounge. If you haven't...
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
If you haven't tried these polar drinks, they're very good. They have like flavors, but it's not like what you'd think. Like it's kind of more like an essence than a flavor. There's no sugar or sweeteners or anything, but like this one's pink apple and lemon.
The flavor of
Really worth it.
This one's pink apple and lemon, and it's probably one of the best ones. Maybe the best one.
Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy
Well, the
and
glare,
reflected poorly on his
but
overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left.
pink apple and lemon, and it's called polar. See it?
Stanley sat around waiting for more dialogue. But when a
Got a
long
polar
time
bear
had
on.
passed
I can't spell most times because I'm on computer,
sent him a message.
Yeah,
but I'm getting better.
well, that's good. Do you like Gmod?
I like mod and BTTF.
BTTF. Battletoads Towards the Future? Don't tell me. BTTF.
Back to the Future, BTTF.
Oh, back to
But
the
at last, he'd had enough of the amazing room and took the first open door on his left to get back to business.
like Back to the Future, the game? Or a game? Or just the movies, you mean?
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
See?
The movies.
Nice. I don't think I ever saw the third one. And I've heard from a lot of people. Some people consider it the best one. But I don't think I ever even seen it. What? I don't know. Okay.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Which Back to the Future movie is your favorite?
I consider the second one to be the best one. The second best one is the first one, and the third one is in third place. I'm talking about the Dow.
Fuck yeah, the DeLorean, dude.
Oh, no. Oh, no, 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 not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say
DeLorean.
at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time.
You know what? I just realized. I think that jackass Elon Musk probably based part of the design of the Cybertruck off the DeLorean. And I only say jackass for lack of a better
Coming to a
term.
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I just realized how much the Cybertruck actually looks like the DeLorean, but like on steroids.
Most definitely.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? They gotta do Back to the Future 4 and use the Cybertruck. I thought there was a Back to the Future 4 in the works. Despite Michael J. Fox's Parkinson's. I thought they were working on one.
Back to the Future 4 ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, probably not. Seemed like for a little while there was rumors though. But I mean, they lose Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. They don't got a movie no more. Christopher Lloyd.
This actor said it himself.
Oh yeah. I don't know who that actor is, but Christopher Lloyd played Doc Brown. J. Fox was Marty McFly.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him.
Oh hey, there's wine on a table.
An extra secret PIN number. 2845.
A little Chianti?
Stanley
Oh, it actually is Chianti.
this.
That's funny. I just kind of said that, but it actually says Chianti on it. Luguino Chianti, 2003. That's not
Stanley
a
just
very
sat
good
around
year.
twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Wait a second. Why did I get a crosshair right there for a second? What is that about?
2845.
Let me check the controls real quick. Yeah, just interact and crouch. Alright. So...
The crosshair is because you're near the keypad.
Oh, it's because I'm near the keypad. Shit. I thought that might have been the case, but I thought surely I'd have to look at
And the
it.
door just opened all by itself.
What the
And
hell?
Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Oh, nice. Well, thank you, Mr. Narrator. You're just going to play the game for me. The way this game looks reminds me of this other game called Superliminal. It's an interesting puzzle game. I saw a new game I want to try out yesterday.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar.
I forget
It
what it's
was a
called,
stirring
though,
of
damn it.
emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature
Somebody's
of his job.
crossed,
Why did he feel this now?
like, Legend of Zelda, like old school Legend of Zelda, with like a
would not go unanswered for
shoot 'em
long.
up. Like you play as a little ship. It's like a shmup. And Legend of
Stanley
Zelda.
Parable was originally built of Source 2, which was the thing that made Half-Life 2.
Oh, you know what? I wonder if that actually, I can almost guarantee that Superliminal game is also on the same engine. I didn't know that this was. I didn't know that. I don't know too much about Stanley
Although this
Parable.
passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Oh. Violent.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn
I didn't
around
go
and
through a
get back
door,
on track.
did I? I just walked down a hall. What the fuck is he talking about?
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
In the update of Stanley Parable, they changed to another game engine.
And why did they do that? Just to update it? Well, I didn't die.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever.
I didn't die
Stanley
yet.
can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story.
Because it looked creepy or something, I don't know.
Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, narrator. Jump off, jump the fuck off.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant,
What the fuck
Stanley
is
was
really going on here?
obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Or not? Is this heaven? Uh-oh.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What
This game
exactly
is
did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Is this game
When
trying
every
to
path
control
you
my
can walk
mind?
has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you
This
see
is
now?
heaven.
Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Okay, I think I won. So the Stanley Parable is a parable about not fearing your death. Got it. Uh-oh. This is a little too meta for me. My brain is hurting. Ah! Oh shit, solitaire? Let's jam. Oh, Stanley's really good at cutting screens off. But he's not very good at cutting them back on. Pop. And a 1 and a 2 and a... These are numbers, ignore these, and fire! Button sounds. Yay. No. No. Yeah. Ooh. Fantastic. Wait. Developed by Crows. What the fuck? I think I'm gonna take another crack at Death Stranding. I never finished it. I'd like to finish it, especially seeing as though there's a second one coming. Well, now, that's interesting because it asked me what time it was when the game started, and yet this is wrong. Oh?
Stanley stood on the roof. Then
he sounds like he's in that room. Wonder what he looks like. Raymond Boombox?
Now look closely, Stanley. See how it's impossible for the player to do anything in this room. Perfect example of poor level design.
I can click my keyboard.
It's the kind of thing you'd pick up on intuitively if you had even the most
Alright,
fundamental
stop hollering at
understanding
me.
of good and bad games.
So, I like to imagine the character in this game as having a keyboard taped around his chest, because you can constantly click your keyboard. You hear this? So he must have a keyboard duct taped around his head. Oh shit. Oh shit. What happened? Hey, come back. Oh. Oh. So, is this just... This is heaven. And heaven is a museum of... Uh-oh. Oh, really? From left to right, the evolution of Stanley's office over time. The first was created in November 2011, second in March 2012, the third in February 2013. Bob. 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 Wow. Breathtaking.
The beta version had Half-Life in it, I'm pretty sure. I don't know, some version has the Half-Life textures.
Is that right? Half-Life textures. You mean like they reused Half-Life assets? I could see that.
Yeah, Half-Life 2 assets.
Hang on, I'm looking at something real quick. I'm downloading this other game that I think I'm going to try out because Stanley Parable is okay, I guess, but seems like it just kind of wants you to follow what the narrator says. Let's hit this on-off switch, see what happens.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save those two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Turn off your PlayStation. There's no other way to beat this.
I don't ever hard turn off my PlayStation, lady.
Pick someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it.
I'm a PlayStation martyr.
Don't let
Best you'd get out of me is rest mode. Alright. Yeah, zoinks, I'm back at the beginning.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it be?
Yeah, alright, shut up.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
Yeah,
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up
I should have
to his
at least
boss's
given you a
office,
jump.
hoping he
What
might
the?
find an answer.
Wait a minute. Maybe there is a little something going on in this game. Didn't seem like much was going on, but that was definitely open before.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Executive bathroom. Money in the morning, money in the evening, money for breakfast time, money crisp. Extreme bathrooms. This isn't a very extreme bathroom.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2844. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Immediately, he stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Wait, this looks just like... forced me into this room before. That's right.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life, for he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
I missed that they just said. They ought to let you rewind. Alright, I'm gonna swap to this other game called Killer Frequency and dick around with it for a little bit. I don't know what the hell this game's trying to do to me.